All right, we're going to get to the Smith's Marina Hotline. Go ahead and lock that back in there, Joe. And we're fortunate to have Jason Caffey, who obviously played here at Alabama, was the number 1 draft pick of the Bulls, won 2 championships. I think he was on the team during the 3rd championship and got traded during the year, but we'll have him talk about that. But, Dad, I'll let you bring Jason into the show.
Well, I appreciate Jason being on. He's been certainly a guy that I worked really hard on to recruit, Kevin Gray and myself, and I thought, and still do, that he was going to be, and he was, a terrific basketball player. I unfortunately only got to coach in the 1 season, and so when I got away, I tried to dismiss myself from Alabama basketball, but Jason keeps up with me, and I try to keep up with him, and we've been friends, and he knows, I think, a lot of him, and he did great in the pros. Everybody has their problems, but he certainly did great, and I'm anxious to visit with him and talk to him about The Last Dance, and he offered to be on, and I appreciate it. Good morning, Jason. How you doing?
Hey, Coach. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. I appreciate you being on.
Thank you for those kind words. Hey, Barry.
What's going on? How you doing, Jason? You doing good?
Yeah, all is well.
Great.
When you got to the Bulls, talk about your mindset and how things got started for you, and your feeling. Your feelings about just sort of getting to the Bulls and getting started with all that hoopla.
Well, when I got there, Coach, first few days of practice, of course, I see Michael in the hallway. I don't say anything to him. I don't feel like I, have proved myself enough to go introduce myself to the man. So I said, let me go out here on the floor and see what this is going to be like. I knew it was going to be a jump with college to pros. I think we played maybe 30 games in college, and those guys are playing 82 games per year plus extra games for playoffs. So I knew the conditioning would be different. That was something that you stayed on me about as a freshman, and it stayed in me. So after the first week of practice, I remember calling home and telling some family members, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play with these guys, because I kind of felt that I wasn't as quick anymore, and I couldn't jump as high. Well, that was not true. It was the fact that those guys were just faster and they could jump higher. And coming off an injury play career at Alabama, I wasn't really 100% healthy. But some family members told me, just stick with it, keep working hard. And after about 3 months, I was able to catch up with those guys physically, and I was able to compete at that level. So, yeah, that was trying.
Well, I'm sure it was, Barry.
Just talk about those particular teams that you were on, and about Michael maybe in practice. I think people have said, hey, he would get on you. He'd get after you if you weren't doing what you were supposed to do, because he always brought it every single day, and he was the ultimate competitor, regardless of what he was doing. I know I saw he took pride in taking people's money on the airplane. Just talk about the work ethic that he had, and how he would get after people, and how you had to have thick skin to deal with a guy like Michael Jordan.
Well, during my 2.5 years in Chicago, I never seen Michael Jordan miss a practice. I never seen him not go 110% in practice. He truly believed that if you practice 110% every practice, the game is just a rollover of practice, and it really was. I bought into his beliefs, and others bought into his beliefs. Those were the ones that he liked. If you didn't buy into his beliefs, you were going to catch hell every day, because he's pushing to get better every day. And that was just his MO.
Yep, that.
Talk a little bit about, Roger wasn't there when you were there, was he?
Dennis?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was his backup coach.
Okay.
I played with Dennis 2.5 years, so he was there.
Okay, go ahead. Tell a little bit about, he's, to me, off the wall.
Great athlete.
One of the
greatest athletes I've ever seen, and I say this because the man, and this is no secret, I'm not trying to throw any dirt on him, the man could go out and take, 15, 20 shots of liquor the night before, and he would come to practice an hour early and ride the elliptical for a whole hour. And then we were an older team besides myself, so we didn't practice but an hour and a half on the floor. But guess what? that whole hour and a half, I would have to beg him to come off the floor just so I can get some sets in with the first and second squad. An hour after practice, he's still riding the elliptical. This man was a beast.
Yeah, they talk about the time, I guess, when he went to Vegas. Talk about that. And I was telling Dad, I think it's a little bit reason why maybe college coaches have a harder time making it in the NBA, because they want to be so disciplined. I don't think they can turn their head on situations like that. It was very interesting that Phil Jackson, he didn't go to the GM, and he went to Michael Jordan about whether that was going to be okay. Just talk about Phil Jackson being able to let him do that. It was very interesting to watch that last night, how that all unfolded.
Phil did exactly what he needed to do in controlling Dennis. He did not attempt to control Dennis, if you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
Yeah.
He would listen to what Dennis wanted, and he would try to, speak logic to Dennis. He would never come down on him or hammer him for his thoughts. He was like a father figure to Dennis, and Dennis respect that to a great extent. So with Phil handling him in this manner, Phil always got what he wanted out of Dennis, because Dennis actually felt like Phil respected his wishes, even if they weren't the best wishes. Phil still didn't shoot him down for wanting to do the things he did.
Yeah, interesting that.
Talk about the other four starters on the team. A little bit about each one, and just about the players on the team. Your feelings. You're free to say whatever you want to say.
All right, yeah, let's run through these guys. All right, we'll start with Scottie Pippen. Very versatile player, super athletic. And that's the type of athleticism Latrell Sprewell had for us, Coach. Could run all day, quick, lightning quick. His defense was impeccable. Great second man to Michael. He really knew how to get Mike off and get him the ball. We all know about Michael Jordan, possibly the greatest player to ever play the game. Mike's personality, definitely an alpha male. You can't really tell Mike anything because he knows everything. And in a lot of situations he did. So I can't say anything to bash the man. He was well knowledgeable about basketball and a lot of other things. Ron Harper, I hated that guy. He always would be sarcastic towards me. I don't know, maybe because he stuttered as a kid. People picked on him. And I guess when he met people who really liked him, he didn't know how to take it. So he and I had a hard time getting along. Luke Longley was a good friend of mine, our center. He was from Australia. He used to always try to invite me down to Australia, and I'm like, Luke, that's a 24-hour flight, man. I'm not really up for that. I'll just, we'll kick it in the States, and we'll leave it at that. And let's see who else was in that starting line. Dennis Rodman, yeah, possibly the greatest rebounder ever. 6'8", 235 pounds, the only man I know who could, really defend Shaq, defend Karl Malone, and he was nowhere near as big as those men. He just had a heart that may have been bigger than their hearts. I really don't know, but he has fire inside of himself.
What about the kid at coach that I've got my name?
Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr.
Yeah, Steve Kerr, yeah.
Steve Kerr, really good friend of mine. I talk to Steve often when they come to New Orleans. I go see him and coach. Really great attitude. You want a Steve Kerr on your team because he's the finesser. He's going to keep everybody in line. If Jordan is having a hard time with, say Randy Brown, Steve Kerr is going to be that guy that steps in and smooths everything out. He wrote the foreword for me on my book. To this day, I still talk to him on the phone, similar to how you and I talk, Coach, once or twice a month.
We're talking with Jason Caffey. Obviously, was on the Bulls, won 2 championships with him. Talk about Jerry Krause. He had to do some good things. I guess he firing Doug Collins there. I don't know if that was a good thing, but in promoting Phil Jackson, some of the things he did, I guess he drafted you. He was responsible for you, but it seemed like the guys didn't really respect him very much. I guess the end part of it was really mind-boggling for people to watch that he could get away with that. Just tell us about Jerry Krause, what kind of guy he was and all the crazy things that he did.
He put himself in that position. The man, no question, knew what he was doing as a general manager. He assembled that team. But, you know, his need for attention seemed limitless. He was not happy with, I think, the credit he got for assembling the team. He kind of wanted to be the guy who was said, you know, as coaching the team. Not that he was the coach, but he was jealous of Phil's attention. He was jealous of Michael's relationship with Phil. He felt like Michael should look up to him and talk to him. He kept up a lot of nonsense, very, very sarcastic man. It takes a lot to get me riled up. I'm a pretty laid-back dude, but one day I was on the elevator, and Michael Jordan and Jerry Krause were on the elevator together, and Jerry said something really insulting to me, and before I know it, I feel my hands going up towards his neck, and Michael Jordan jumps in between, and he's like, "No, don't do that. You're about to mess up your whole career. Let me deal with it." And then Michael would just verbally assault him every day after that and just kill him on the bus. He was hard to deal with. You know, Jerry Krause was very hard to deal with.
Was he responsible? Was he alone responsible after that for trading you at a time and that he shouldn't have been traded?
Yeah, he and I had a falling out, Coach, that stemmed all the way back from the University of Alabama. I don't care to go deeply into it.
Okay.
But we had an altercation, and without even discussing it with me and getting all the facts, he decided to just trade me. And I remember it like yesterday. I got a call from the Golden State Warriors after leaving practice one day, and they said, "You're a Warrior now. Could you kindly pack up your things and get out here to California?" And I was like, "Okay, well, cool." I had already won 2 championships. I had felt like I accomplished some things I had never accomplished in basketball anymore. And to be frank, I was just kind of tired of his BS, Jerry Krause, that is. So I kind of gladly took my show on the road and tried to do my own thing.
During the Last Dance, when Pippen was frustrated with his contract, of course, he understood why he signed it. Then he didn't realize that the NBA was going to take off like it did, so he waited to have the surgery. And even when they interview Michael now, they go back to him and he says Pippen was wrong in that situation. Was he? It seemed like Michael would have his back there and said maybe the Bulls should have restructured his deal. This guy was the second best player probably in the NBA. Was way underpaid. Did you like that part where Michael didn't seem like he really had Scotty's back, I guess, in that situation where he said that he was wrong in how he handled it?
Well, Barry, you know, business is business.
Sure.
If you got a guy and he wants to come over and he tells you, "Barry, I'm going to cut your grass, and I want $25 to cut your grass." And then when he gets finished cutting the grass, he tells you, "Barry, I want $100.
Yeah.
How would that sit with you?
Not good.
Okay. I can't, get mad at Krause or management because they didn't restructure Scottie Pippen's contract. At the time Scottie signed that contract, he said he had some financial issues, not that he was hurting for money, but he needed money. His father had been paralyzed.
Yeah.
He had a paralyzed brother. And a lot of people don't understand that at that time, Scottie Pippen was having very bad back trouble. He didn't know or realize he was going to turn into the player that he was going to turn into. Scottie's a good friend of mine, but Reinsdorf even told him, if you sign this contract, you're going to be kicked off in a few years. And, true enough, it came true.
Yeah, you make a good point there. And a deal's a deal. It seems like guys now seem to get their way. But Jerry Reinsdorf, he wasn't having it, was he, Jason?
He was not. Straight up shrewd businessman, as a man on that level has to be. He had Scottie locked in, and he knew it, and he rolled with it.
Yeah, give him credit, Dab.
Tex Winter was a friend of mine. I don't know that Tex didn't fit in real well there, I guess, because maybe they were taking the ball out of MJ's hands too much. Talk about the coaches. Talk about the coaches that you work for, the Bulls. I can say whatever you want to say about Tex. I don't think Tex was liked by some of them. Talk about the coaching staff.
I always enjoyed Tex Winter. Older, very wise man. He was a straight shooter, just like you, Coach. He's not going to sugarcoat anything. He's just going to give it to you. And for players like me, that's how we need it. We don't need you to, beat around the bush with us. Just tell us straight up. And, he was the one who orchestrated that triangle. And Phil learned that from him.
Right.
So Tex was enjoyable to be around. And then Phil was a master finesser. He always had a way of making his players, feel really good. On the professional level, what I found, the difference in the professional level and the collegiate level, you're more so, as a coach, you're a manager of personalities. And Phil knew how to manage Michael's big ego. He knew how to manage Scotty's, and he knew how to manage Dennis's. It takes a hell of a man to deal with all those different personalities, and he did a great job of it.
Just talk about the road show. I mean, when you guys would go on the road to the hotels, to getting off the bus, I'm sure it had to be just a wild scene. Just talk about how that was, Jason.
Well, back then, Michael Jordan could have possibly been the most popular man in the world. I've seen people just run up to him and not rush him and grab him, but just dive at his feet and start kissing his shoes. At the same time, I see Dennis Rodman come out of nowhere and think he's on WWF and start stomping him in the ground. I mean, it was a show in itself. The people who we were intermingling with at these hotels, that was a show. And you had characters on the team who would put on the show. So to me, it was hilarious, but really fun to see. It was like a rock star's life.
When you're one down in the play last night, if that basketball is not at midcourt, you don't have a chance to win that game. But the rule in the NBA was after the timeout, the ball goes to midcourt. Is that not right? And that pass to MJ that he made in the win by one, it looked like it was curtains for you in that particular deal. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Yeah, Coach, I didn't really get to observe that one really well, so I don't want to elaborate on that one. But yeah, if you saw it to be that, you have a great basketball mind. You always have. I've admired you. So if you're saying it, then that's what it was. I just can't elaborate on that one. I don't really remember.
When you left Chicago, tell our listeners about your feelings, how you got out. I mean, not how you got out there, but what happened after that, or anything you want to tell them, because you've done a great job with this. This is very, very good. And tell our listeners about the movement from Chicago to Golden State.
Well, that was actually, although I was sick of Krause's BS, it's hard to go from the best team possibly of all time to the worst team in the league. You're in a town now. California's always been an aggressive state. You're not winning games, so there is no public life for you. If you go out in the public, you got guys wanting to fight you, guys plotting against you to do things, maybe rob you, things of that nature. So it was no fun, but it made me grow up as a man, because at that point in time, I didn't have a Michael Jordan or Scottie Pippen or Dennis Rodman or Phil Jackson to look up to as a big brother or a father figure. I had to figure it out on my own, and I had some ups and downs and trials and tribulations during those times, and it was tough. But through it all, I'm glad that I went through it, because it's made me the man that I am today, and I look forward to continue to be a better man.
We're talking with Jason Caffey. Jason, I want to ask you back the way the game was played back then. I mean, it was physical. Watching some of those highlights last night, could a guy like Steph Curry, could he have played back then? I mean, I know he could have played, but I mean, when he hitting all those shots, somebody would have knocked him in the third row just to send him a message. That would get you thrown out today. Back then, the game was totally different. They would let you hand check. They would let you do so many things physically that you can't do. And I'll be curious if you think the game's better now, or was it better back then?
Well, to start it, he could have played. I don't think he would have had a long career.
Yeah.
If he would have just stayed out there and shot threes, cool. But the first time he'd have went down the lane and a Bill Laimbeer or somebody like that would have caught him around his neck, his career probably would have been over. And likewise with a lot of players these days. I think the game is better today because I believe in longevity of the players.
Sure.
I like to see a player play out his whole career. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, people like LeBron have been very blessed, and they have been lucky because Michael played through all that physicality, and luckily he never got hurt. But as you see some of the licks he was taking, like I said, on any given night, a player could have lost his career out there because the game was just that physical.
Yeah, it was a war out there. Those games, those series, they had to take a lot out of you, didn't it, Jason? I mean, that physical, getting beat that much, you probably couldn't practice at all much as you got late in the season, could you?
Well, Phil was wise, and what he would do is cut the minutes down because he knew he had one of the oldest teams in the league. So a lot of time would be spending the hot, cold whirlpool, rejuvenating the body, getting ready for that next bout.
Yeah. That.
Did y'all look at a lot of film, or did you just, as you went through it and had the same team over and over, just sort of let that go by? Did y'all do a lot of film studying?
Yeah, we did, Coach. Before every game, before every opponent, we would go in the theater room and we would watch film. And it would be more than film. Phil would have the film with the basketball playing, and then he would have different skits from shows like Caddyshack in there and different comedies. So as you're watching this and you see how good Karl Malone is and how tough he's going to be, then you see a shot of that groundhog coming up out the ground on Caddyshack. So it makes you laugh. He knew how to put the tension on you, but he knew how to take it right back off you and just relax you. And that was one of the things I missed most about playing in Chicago, actually, was watching the videos.
Yeah, well, we had Enos Watley on the other day, and he said he was kidding Michael about, he only got 11 points against us when they beat us at NC State to go to, when they played Georgetown for the national championship. And I don't know what MJ said, but it was kind of interesting to hear Enos talk about that situation.
Yeah, he just said George was saying he had 20-something in that game. He said I had to put the box score and show him he only got 6 shots and scored 11 points because we played defense at Alabama. So I don't think Michael liked that too much, Jason.
No, he doesn't. You know what I'm saying? I hate to say arrogant, but very confident guy and cocky at the same time. It's got to be MJ's way or no way.
Yeah.
That's how he was.
How about, is he the most competitive guy you've ever been around? I heard the stories, and you could tell them better than anybody, about playing cards with the guy. The guy would play cards all night. He'd go play golf. I guess when you guys were in series or on the road or playing, game day, play golf. Was this the most competitive guy you've ever been around in anything that he did?
By far. I've never really met another gentleman like Michael Jordan. He took everything super serious. Pool game, you wouldn't get a shot. If you let him break, you will not get a shot. He was that good at that. There was no secret about the gambling on the plane. I've seen guys lose Ferraris on airplane flights from Chicago right across the lake to Detroit. That's only a 30-minute flight. And you just lost a $250,000 car. Not Michael, because he would win a lot of the times. But these new, younger guys that were foolish enough to gamble with him, oh, man, he killed them.
They lost a Ferrari on the airplane?
Lost a Ferrari.
Wow.
That was a tough trip, wasn't it?
I'm sorry. I put my little money on that table because I'm not a gambler, of course, and I'm not knocking it, but he was knocking their heads off.
Well, I'm sure sorry that you got injured at Alabama. I know you went through some tough I don't know how you went through my year, but the 3 years after that, the years after that, I know you kept beat up all the time and never could really get well, could you?
Yeah, Coach, I look back on that and I'll say all that was part of making me the man that I'm trying to be today. I haven't told you, but in 2022, I plan on running for senator down here in my district in Mobile, and I've really taken enjoyment in helping people in my community. I own and operate group homes for the mentally ill, and I do a lot of free basketball camps for kids. So I think all that I went through has made me into the man that I am today, and I'd like to say I'm proud of that.
Well, I enjoyed coaching for that 1 year, but it wasn't long.
We had fun, though. And you came up with some great one-liners. I still repeat them to this day. I won't on this interview, but I still do this.
Yeah, don't do that on the radio. We might get in trouble. No, I know you would. Well, Jason, it's been great stuff, man. We appreciate that. So if you lose your Ferrari, when you get off the plane, this guy say, hey, just give me the keys. You have to catch a cab home. How does that work again if you lose your car?
Well, Michael was so low down, he wouldn't even give the guy a ride home. He took the car from him.
took his car. So,
great.
Thank you, Jason.
Jason, great stuff.
I tell you what, we have a lot of interviews. It's great.
Thank you very much.
Coach, I'll call you next week and check on you, see how you're doing. Barry, it was great talking to you.
Great talking to you. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
See
Take care. All right.